BS Free Witchcraft is a production of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. Nerd and Tie produces podcasts ranging from actual play to true crime, and you can find more at nerdandtie.com or join our Discord by going to nerdandtie.com/Discord. Welcome to BS Free Witchcraft, your monthly guide to the modern witchcraft movement. Mine's a lot of the usual, bullshit. I'm your host, Trey Dorn, and it is February of 2023, and, well, you know how some episodes of the show are well-researched, thought out, and, I have some sort of, coherent point, and then other episodes are just kind of an unhinged rant? We're sadly going to fall more towards the latter category this episode, and, that's, Yeah, so if you remember back in 2021, I did a whole episode on, cults and predators and things like that. One of the things I touched on was this kind of condescending, toxic teacher attitude that we sometimes find. Come sit at the foot of the great teacher is how I usually refer to it colloquially. I don't think I ever said that on the show. But, yeah, I've been getting real frustrated with that type lately. You see, I made the mistake of getting back on TikTok. For those of you who follow me on social media, I tend to use TikTok in waves, where I will be active for several months, and then I'll take several months off, and then I'll go back and be active. On and off, I'm on that platform. And the problem is, the problem is that in my normal life, in my day-to-day life, I purposely, only really interact with people who I want to interact with. Be it in real-world interactions or in, social media interactions on platforms like Tumblr. And that, I have cultivated kind of a community of people I would follow. I only follow witches who are the kind of witches that I like to talk to. And same when I talk with people on Discord, because most of the time when I'm talking to any witches on Discord, I'm talking on my own Discord, the Discord for the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. You can find an invite at nerdandtie.com/Discord. But that is the Discord for the entire Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. But, between this show and Hex Positive, hosted by Brina Guerin, we've got a pretty interesting, fun community of witches who come from things with, a point of view not unlike my own. So it's not like I'm dealing with a lot of the people who I purposely avoid. I don't have to interact with, right? But the problem with TikTok is that the FYP generates a lot of contact with people who you wouldn't necessarily want to, because it's trying to algorithmically detect who it thinks I want to interact with. And it's making guesses based off of the kind of contact I do interact with, and that content is often witchy. And that means I end up encountering the witchcraft voices that I don't want to encounter. Combined with that, you also get the people who I do like to listen to, because they're getting getting stuff from people who are the kinds of people I don't want to talk to. They often react to that and end up talking about that. And so I end up finding out about things that I don't want to find out about. I don't want to think about. It is inevitable. It is frustrating. And so we end up with me ranting on an episode like this because I'm just so frustrated and infuriated that I have to get it out of my system. So that's this episode. There's a phrase I've often used, and it is finger waggling. Not wagging, waggling. And it's for a certain kind of person who tries to give off a certain kind of vibe. There have always been people like this in the community, and I don't know if there's any way that we will ever see a future without them. But they are people who get into witchcraft because they want to seem mysterious. They want to seem mysterious and feel important. And a lot of them try to become witchcraft teachers. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's how do I explain this? I said before, the sit at the foot of the great teacher vibe. I am important. And the reason why I call it finger waggling is because if you ever like talk to these people in person, or if you like watch them on TikTok, you will see this every single time. There's a certain kind of hand gestures that go with the way they talk, and sometimes it's slow, sometimes deliberate, often towards the camera. Oh, those are the worst. The worst are the ones who reach out towards the camera. They're gonna say they're touching your energy or weird stuff like that over TikTok. Like it's hard to describe over audio what these gestures look like, and even for people watching the video version on YouTube, I don't know if I can even accurately do them. But I've always equated it to like for waggling the fingers, like ooh, spooky. Ooh, it's a whole vibe, man. It's a whole thing. And like I have seen people who put out informative content with this, but I always get like, it always puts me off whenever anyone like kind of takes this on, because it's this self-important thing, and again, it's like, it's the sit at the foot of the great teacher vibe. I'm so important and wise. You should listen to me, and only me. I know what I'm talking about. Come sit. I will teach you. Like, don't get me wrong. I am not against people making educational witchcraft content. I literally make educational witchcraft content. And I don't want to hold up myself as some example, even though I am literally trying to like be the opposite of that vibe. If anyone is ever impressed by me, please stop being impressed by me. Witchcraft for me is something I'm heavily interested in, and I research a lot, and I like talking about. And this podcast is an excuse for me to info dump at people once a month, right? Like, it's a chance for me to just either complain or discuss the history of my community at length, and no one can stop me because, no one has to listen if they don't want to. You have voluntarily opened this up. If you aren't enjoying listening to this show or watching this show, that's on you. I didn't make you do this. But so I always want to treat it like I'm coming at you from the same level, right? Like, we are both witches. We are equals having a discussion. I might know something that you don't, but once I have imparted that information to you, it's up to you to do something. I'm not in charge of you. I'm not your boss. I will never be your boss unless, for some reason, in a non-witchcraft related environment, we end up employed at the same company and I get promoted to being literally your boss. I don't think that's ever going to happen to anyone who listens to the show, but it technically could. So, in witchcraft, I'm not your boss. Because I have been people's boss before, so it's not like existential issue. All right, so some of you may be asking, what brought this on, Trey? What was the exact trigger? And I'm not gonna. So there's a couple of people. There's this one TikToker who, and by the way, this is the thing. If you are a social media content creator, there is this weird instinct that everyone feels like, okay, I'm a witch. I'm on X platform. I must now teach everyone what I know. Why? You don't have to. You don't get me wrong. Making educational posts, great. If you know something, talk about it. And obviously, I'm literally making this show, so I don't have a huge place to talk from, but you don't have to. And maybe some of you shouldn't who do. Don't get me wrong. If you're a creator and I follow you on some platform, it means I am interested in what you're saying. So this is not a judgment off of any mutual or anything like that. And obviously I like certain educational creators. That's fine. But there are so many people who like feel like they have like that's what making witchcraft content is, when it's not. Like, if you notice the show, sometimes we go educational, right? Like the the Dabbler's Week episode of this show, like if you go back to that, I'm actually talking about how to do stuff. I'm far more likely to talk about like history, stuff like that, because people's individual paths are so different that I like it's if I talked about just like the kind of witchcraft I do, I think it would limit like what we could talk about in this show. So I prefer to talk about like the history of the movement and the social stuff behind the movement. So like that to me is more important to talk about on a show like this for me. But like it's like there's the but I'm not here to teach. Like, if you'll notice, I'm very bad if it came down to like actually teaching you how to be a witch. I mean, maybe that's not true, but like that has never been the primary focus of this show. Yeah. Like, the reason though I came onto this, not to derail too far into that, is because there's this like one guy who is just driving me nuts on TikTok. I don't follow him, but I keep getting him on my page, and he's older than me. He's older than me. And there's gray in my beard here, so you can make some guesses. But he just says shit that like sometimes like occasionally verifiably wrong stuff, but that's literally a different episode that is going to come up. I'm going to talk about that, but like, and he teaches people witchcraft, and maybe he knows his path really well, but he's got this whole vibe that just, people do this like come sit at the great teacher vibe because it works, because people who are new to witchcraft are looking for guidance, right? And they want someone to show them. And most of the people who are raised in the United States come from very authority-based systems, right? Like, when you grow up in the Christian church, you grow up with clergy who tell you what to do, and your parents tell you what to do. It's very authority-driven things, right? And so there's a comfort to that some people find. And so they go looking for it. But the problem is that you're a witch, and we don't have those. I mean, there are groups, like, if you take a look at, like, there are groups who have, like, some form of hierarchy, but even when you take a look at, like, British traditional Wicca and things like that, the high priest and high priestess stuff, those are more administrative roles. Like, they're not personally in charge of you. They're just the people who, like, they're going to run the thing. Like, it's administrative, not authoritative. Like, we are witches, man. Like, there are some people who have instituted more hierarchical structures into their witchcraft groups, and usually those ones tend to be fucking unhealthy, man. You can probably find me an example where it isn't, but I can probably find you 10 that are bad. That are really bad. And it attracts this stuff. And I feel like that you have to deconstruct the kind of societal things that have been driven into you about the structure and authority of any sort of spiritual or like mystical stuff. That's kind of like, that's really ingrained in Christian society, right? And I think that a lot of people have not done enough to deconstruct their cultural Christianity. And that's what leads to this desire for someone to guide you personally and show you the way instead of trying to find it for yourself. I would like to help you find it for yourself in the sense that I will just info dump on you if you ask me a question, but you're in charge of you. I'm not here to tell you what to do personally. except for like maybe the occasional "don't be racist." Like that's the extent of instruction you'll get from me. Yeah. I said a long time ago I don't trust witchcraft teachers. And it's not to say that they're all bad. There are probably some very good ones. In fact, I've met good ones. Like, it's not a 100% bad scenario, but there are so many bad ones out there that and we facilitate this in this community. Like, because there's this whole set of them doing this, the community just lets it happen. Like, you get into situations like WitchCon where, like, there are people who are not good actors in this community who are just kind of allowed to flourish. Like, I don't mean like active predators or anything like that, but just dicks. Like, I think the best example is like, and it came up recently on TikTok, is Christian Day. Christian Day, for those of you who don't know, is a self-described warlock who owns witch shops in like Salem and New Orleans. I think he's out of New Orleans now, but for a long time he was in Salem. And he runs Hexfest and WitchCon, and it's every year get a bunch of witches and influencers, like witches and witchcraft influencers and authors and stuff, like showing up and doing his events. But he's a dick. Like, I don't know how to describe that. Maybe people shouldn't work with this guy. Like, and I don't mean because he calls himself a warlock. I mean, that's a red flag, but not everybody who calls themselves a warlock is a dick. But a lot of dicks call themselves warlocks. And it's not because the guy looks like he's, you know, in every photo I've ever seen of the guy, it looks like he's posing for the cover of his unsuccessful MCR cover band. I don't mean to say that as a slight on people who like MCR. My wife loves MCR. Even I sing along to the Black Parade. There's nothing wrong with Gerard Way in that sense. I like MCR. But there is something to say about, like, the stereotype I'm trying to drive is like a guy who tried to start an MCR cover band but couldn't get anyone to do it with him. That guy. And like, people are willing to work with this guy who has, on more than one occasion, had people have to take out restraining orders against him for alleged harassment. Now, they denied her that he did it one of the times. I think the 2015 one, he denied that he actually harassed the person, but it doesn't change the fact that it was not the first restraining order against him for harassment. And he doesn't deny some of the earlier stuff. So, yeah. Like, why are people working with this man? Why is, like, people have like tried to come up with like examples of transphobia and other stuff like that, which is all terrible, but like, this is a person who has multiple restraining orders against him for harassment from other people in the community. Like, this isn't like a non-witch took out this out. Like, the 2015 one for sure was another person in the witchcraft community who was a former collaborator, like, who had worked with him. Why? Why are people working with him? And I guess, like, I shouldn't be too shocked. We see this in the convention scene all the time. Like, where, like, because for those of you who only listen to my witchcraft stuff and aren't familiar with the rest of the stuff, I co-founded an anime convention. I help run it still, No Brand Con. Like, I am heavily active in the geek and nerd fandom convention scene, right? And at nerdandtie.com, like on the Nerd and Tie podcast that started the network, like, it was literally about convention news and stuff like that we started that podcast. And like, we see people like this all the time running events there. But to watch it continue to happen in the witchcraft community, like, why? Why are we doing this, man? Why are we doing this? It's wholly unnecessary. It is bad. You don't have to work with these people, right? Like, if someone's a dick, you don't have to work with them. It's voluntary. What are you doing? Why are these... We let people like this flourish because they can get away with it. And don't work with dicks. Avoid people who have like the great teacher vibe, and just fucking A, man. Just like, we should be treating each other in these conversations as equals, and we shouldn't be working with dicks. I don't understand why that seems like a hard concept, but I swear, it is just like beyond some of you. I mean, I know the people listening to this show, the people watching this show, like the people who engage with my content and stuff, like you're probably not buying into these people's crap. But the fact is, you probably know someone who is. And like with Christian Day and like Hexfest and WitchCon, like why? And I understand why. It's because it's easy. It's because sometimes it's because people don't know what people are like. And sometimes it's because it's easy to ignore that these are the opportunities in front of you and you take them. Like, people go to conventions run by bad people in the non-witch spaces because that's the convention that there is, man, and I'm going to go do it. And there are alternatives. Like, you can work with people who aren't like that, but it's always easy to sit back and ignore it and just do it. So it is the harder route to confront issues. It always will be. It's always easier to passively do nothing in these situations, but we have a choice. We are witches. We are literally trying to take the active choice, right? Like, the point of witchcraft, for a lot of us at least, is taking control and power in your life. And so if there are things that need changing, it's up to us to like take the power and make the change. Like, we can do that. That is an option. That is an option. Anyways, now that I just did an unhinged, unedited rant for over 20 minutes, yikes. Normally I have to edit these. Like, if you watch the YouTube version, I'm betting there's not a single jump cut at all. I'm betting it's just a big single take, and that is, for an unscripted episode, that is uncommon. Like, I don't even think I make it through the Q&A episodes without doing an edit normal. Okay, wow, okay. So, anyways, thank you guys for listening to my unhinged rant. I'll probably be more informative next month. I don't know. Some of you guys like this stuff. Some of you don't. We'll be more informative next month, I promise. Anyways, this unhinged rant was brought to you by my lovely Patreon patrons. My lovely patrons on Patreon get to see these episodes a whole week early. This one was a couple of days late for them, but usually a full week early they get these episodes. And I want to give a shout out to people who contribute at the shout out level of Stephanie Graves, Lindsay Dosey, Bruce Norville, Courtney, Amber Schmidt, and Echo of Truth, Claire Dennis, and Caleb Brakowski. Remember, if you want to contribute, even $1 a month gets you this show a whole week early, and you can find my Patreon at patreon.com/TRAEGORN. That's patreon.com/TRAEGORN. And if you can't afford to contribute to the show, just know that sharing the show on social media like crazy helps. So please do. Tell your friends, friends, yell at your friends. Let me yell at your friends this episode, apparently. Do you know someone who's buying into this crap? Just make them listen to this episode and tell them that they are a full human adult who is not subservient to any I don't know. If you want to follow the show on social media, I am on Twitter at TRAEGORN, I guess. Actually, I'm really not updating that Twitter right now. But I'm pretty much done with Twitter, I think. I'm on TikTok at tiktok.com/@TRAEGORN. At TRAEGORN is pretty much where you'll find me on TikTok. I'm on an off phase, I think, right now. I don't know. I'm still deciding. I'm on Tumblr, which is my most active social network, at TRAEGORN.tumblr.com. And if you want to follow this show on Facebook, you can do it at facebook.com/BSFreeWitchcraft. Do not try to find my personal Facebook page. That's where I talk to my mom. I have to remind you guys of this so often because so many of you keep trying to... Okay, if you want to talk to me directly, the best way to do that is on the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network Discord. And you can find an invite for that at nerdandtie.com/Discord. And, you can also talk to other creators of shows on the Nerd and Tie Discord, like Miles and Charlie of Casual Trek, the Star Trek podcast that we have on the thing, where every 2 weeks, it's a fortnightly podcast. Miles and Charlie talk about random episodes of Star Trek, usually on theme together, from across the entire franchise as they slowly make their way through it in no particular order. It's really, really fun. I really enjoy the show. And you should listen to it because it's good. Just remember, you can subscribe to this show, BS Free Witchcraft, at nerdandtie.com/BSFreeWitchcraft or at bsfreewitchcraft.com. And you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, everywhere that podcasts exist. You can find the show. And all the subscription links are at bsfreewitchcraft.com. And, yeah. I think that's where we're going to call this. Magicians, thank you for joining me yet again. And remember, dirt in our fingernails, brick in our hands. And I'll talk to you Magicians next month.